multiple coaching skills. And then I find out now it's true. I was really fortunate. And I just remember thinking, how lucky am I? Like Mike Walters, I have a man crush on him. Because, not only because he's a genius when it comes to neuro-linguistic programming, he's an absolutely gifted real estate coach, coaching some of the top teams in the country and in the world. But he's also a hell of a musician. We were at a house, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something, a year and a half ago or something like that. I was like, oh man, check out that horn that just sits in that house and says, vacant. John picks up this horn and literally brought me right to New Orleans. Now, those of you who know me know I'm a musician. I've been my entire life, so I get a little like man crushy when other people get on and just start out of nowhere and wails on this instrument. And come to find out, he actually traveled with a pretty famous band.
Which one?
For a couple of years as a horn player. He taught university. As a musician, so did you teach composition theory or can't remember?
Yes.
Yeah. So and then he ends up becoming the executive assistant to Diana Costa, who's also one of my.
Not EA. I'm not taking that. CO.
Sorry.
Yes.
All right. So also one of my heroes, including your husband Tony Sullivan, who's
Yes.
my own real estate coach. So here you go, you guys. Now we get to learn from the best. This is a great time for us in our career to be able to go out and find one more transaction. Words that we use make a difference. We talk about conversations that convert, previously known as scripts, but neuro-linguistic programming is a whole different level of communication. And so without further ado, let's give it to the giant himself, Mr. John Vander Gheynst.
Thank you for appropriately embarrassing. Yes. My favorite part of the story is that I was the first buyer that Josh worked with like 15 years.
Yeah.
All right. So he helped me buy an investment property. Interestingly enough, I'll reference a story that Josh did with me when I got cold feet about buying an investment property. He almost did exactly verbatim the model that we were in the second half of the conversation today. Hey, Cody, what's up, man? How you doing? All right. A lot of people, how many people have heard of NLP? How many people know what this means? It's usually a smaller percentage, okay? Your work. Test. This is the presentation. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'm going to do like the speed summary of NLP as a whole, and this does not do it justice. Over the way. First of all, lots of things happen in the areas of psychology, game theory, learning theory, systems theory in the middle of the 20th century. Basically, post World War II, people became highly fascinated with a lot of things in the United States. What happens is a couple of researchers, both academically trained medical researchers, Bandler and Gridler, spearheaded this assembly of these modes of practice and thought. They saw this connection between like what really was truly excellent in human beings. Right? It was really kind of a cool pioneering field of research. And Rinder described it as the model of excellence. Excellence in sales, excellence in leadership, excellence in psychology, excellence in therapeutic practices, excellence in business. You name it, it was becoming modeled. They looked for the patterns of thinking and behavior that unified all. Does that make sense? All right. This is where the NLP had its basis, the fascination with what is excellent. They built on a model, right? The same way that Gary wrote MRA. You know that MRA is actually a research book. MRA is actually a research book. Gary didn't like write these ideas in the ivory tower and say, here's what you should do in a real estate business. He went to the field and researched who was the best at what they did, assembled them into a series of best practices. That became the MRA. and then later also became shift. Right? It was based on it was modeling. This same idea, very also here he has early training NLP. Many people don't know that. He actually did early training. One of his favorite books was Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. He still talks about it in his masterminds. Tony Robbins' category is completely NLP. All right. So there's this again, excellence. Just to keep that word running throughout. These names may or may not mean anything to you. Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, Milton Erickson, Abraham Maslow. You may know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs for the before this category. He was one of the early graduates, late 19th century. However, all of these people are really starting to understand how humans think. So, NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. Neuro Linguistic Programming. Neuro meaning having to do with the nervous system, which includes our brain, our overall nervous system, how we take in information from our five senses. That's the neuro part. Okay. Linguistic, having to do with language and meaning. What is this? What is this? How do you know? How do you know? You've seen one before. Okay. Well, we're going to do a little exercise around this in a little while. This is a plate because somewhere in our past, our memory tells us that we had an experience with something that looks like this. We've organized all of those thoughts unconsciously and put it into a single word. It's tricky when you think about it, right? And then finally, programming. How experiences in life have created a person's current reality. How many of you, again, listen to the same exercise? What is this? Okay, and what is this used for? What else could it be used for? Stabbing. That's scary. How many of you said the same thing? Okay. How many people have ever stretched your back with a pen before? That's possible you couldn't reach. Right. How many of you used it as paperweight? How many of you didn't use it to write down the leads that you should have kept on your follow-up? Yeah, one more time. Yeah, that's right. You can use it as a sobriety test. Exactly right. So this pen has many, many different uses, and your programming, your experiences with the pen determine how you see the pen. And this is completely really fundamental. It's actually kind of fun to think about it if you really want to have an interesting kind of experiment. Let me think about every way that I could use that object that I never had before. Careful where you go with that. Okay. So this NLP as a body of science looks at how our neurology, language, and mental programming shape our experiences, and the way that our experiences have shaped us ultimately decides our trajectory. This is a hard one. Ready? Strap in. How you think determines what's on your balance sheet. How you think determines what happens on your profit and loss. How you think determines the quality of relationships. How you think determines your health. How you think determines every other aspect of the quality of life that you can measure. Okay? And if you're interested in increasing the quality of your life in any area of your life, ultimately, what's going to predicate all of that is a thinking change. And NLP would say, let's look at who's awesome at it. Let's model what they're doing. And let's figure out how to think like they think. Okay? All right. There's absolutely one of the major themes is Bandler and Grinder were absolutely fascinated with change. They were really curious about how people change, what people could do to accelerate change, right? Because the enemy in business is what? It's always what? Time. The enemy in life is really time. You can actually measure the trajectory of your life. Here's a fun question. What would it be like to close 100 units? What would it be like to close 100 units? Okay, what if you did it in a month? What if you did it in a week? What if you did it in 20 years? So what? So the goal that we actually have is measured by the time frame in which we judge it. Does that make sense? Time is actually the enemy. The faster you can change, the faster you can realize trajectory. That makes sense? Okay. And it's very pragmatic too. This is a very practical body of science. We seek to understand these changes because we actually want to understand how to get a different result in our life. Simple, right? Done. One thing that we're not going to talk about it all today, however, it's very, very cool, is that NLP also offers a lot of techniques at the unconscious level, which is we're going to talk about in just a second, where you can make change stick. In fact, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've talked to a couple of people about it. Just based on this little snippet, of just tiny bit of snippet today that we're going to do. I was talking to Boyd yesterday. He said, "Oh, it's an hour. You're being offended to cover NLP." I said, "We need 4 weeks." Okay, we would literally need 4 weeks. My training on NLP for master practitioner was 2.5 weeks, 10 hours a day, and then for my trainer's level of NLP was another 3 weeks at 12 hours. Right, and that's after I've been using the material for years. There's so much in this body of work. So again, this is just the appetizer. All right, let's do this. Okay, modeling, understanding and codifying the way a person thinks, communicates, and acts. Okay, if you guys ever want to see, I'm just going to use her as an example because I have a ton of respect for her. If you ever want to see a great freaking listening presentation, go watch one of Linda's listening presentations. Right? If you feel like you're missing, if there's something that Linda does that you could adopt, maybe you have a great listening presentation, you're looking for a cool edge. Okay, maybe Linda, by the way, just out of curiosity, who do you really respect for their listening presentation? Okay, and what would you steal from Lee?
I pretty much stole everything.
Okay. Modeling, aka stealing. Okay.
R&D.
Okay, modeling, aka stealing. Understand what somebody does at a high level. Look to understand how they think about it, how they communicate what they do. Make sense? Those of you that are in coaching programs with the Roots or wherever you might be, one of the things the value proposition is this is all based on models of what works. When Josh built out his team, everything there built on models of what works. All right, so I'm not going to pontificate on this anymore. However, those models are there. You have people in your environment right now that are incredibly smart about what to do to be successful in real estate. I have utmost respect for Dave and what he learned with Jeff Quinton and what he's brought to Utah with his move. Right, that's a model that works in lead generation we follow. Here's the secret sauce. This is it, folks. If it can be modeled, it can be recreated. This is the secret sauce. If you can do it once and you understand your model, that means you can do it every day. I love this question. We just park the question with you. What would need to happen for you to set one listening appointment a day? What would need to happen for you to set one capital appointment a day? If there's somebody doing it already, if you model it and you understand the model well enough, and the time and energy to actually do the work, you will be able feasibly to create the same result. Make sense? This is where NLP says, let's look at really what we need to boil down and understand about what the result that we want to get, how to do it, and therefore, if you do the work, you'll be in. If it can be done, it can be done by me. It's the internal attitude. How many of us have doubts about our ability to get the results that we want to get? Be honest. How many of us have doubts about the results? Okay. My encouragement to you, hold on, I'm grabbing the mirror when I say this, okay? My encouragement to you is if it can be done, I want to understand who's doing it at a higher level than I. Model everything that I can from that. Make the changes and succeed at a higher level. Right? Seems ridiculously simple. Okay, I'm not going to spend much time on this. However, the cybernetic concept is the idea of a feedback loop. I do something, it didn't work. Okay, what do I need to learn? Where do I need to get smarter? What do I need to adjust? Go back, make one change in the variable. Go back, do it again. Go back, do it again. Continue to experiment with what we need to experiment with to increase the results for the effort that we do. Okay. Super cool stuff. All right. Last thing on NLP overview. NLP is concerned with the process of thinking, not the content. In fact, the conversational model that we're going to lead into in just a minute is a process model. It's not the content. It doesn't matter what your seller says. It matters how we're going to help, how they're thinking about it. Which is another way of saying it. How is greater than what? Context is greater than content. How the person has assembled their thinking patterns is more important than what they actually think. This will make sense to you as you work with this more and more. Finally, echoing, how does one thing is greater than what is? How does one thing is greater than what is? Okay. It's kind of our NLP summary here is through understanding, which is a typo, how our neurology, language, and programming work together, we can choose models of excellence that will help us achieve our greatest potential. So that is NLP based summary. Okay, it's a very deep rabbit hole if you want to start going. All right, let's see. Both rapidly and over time, our conscious choices become our natural ways of being and communicating as certain neural connections strengthen and weaken through neuroplasticity. You know the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Calling anybody here old dogs is absolutely false. In fact, studies have shown that you actually have neuroplasticity for moments after you die. Your brain continues to change. It's capable of creating new neural connections. It's capable of creating new neural connections. That means you can literally change the way that you think to get a different result. Right? And, this would just be so hard for me for this to happen. If everybody left today just asking a really reflective question of where is my thinking, where is my own thinking, where's my own way of being, where are my emotions, where is anything that's internal for me preventing me from getting the results for the things that I want in life. So at the core of that is a great deal of personal responsibility and accountability for understanding that we are the creators of our universe. Okay? You have the power within you. You just want to see it. All right. Okay. Quick thing. This is one of the big kind of pieces about about NLP. I think it's we're evaluating what we would like to train and teach on today, help you understand. This is a pretty little interesting one, but it has some really, really profound practical applications. All right. So mind is generally thought of as being divided into two parts, conscious and unconscious, also known as subconscious, depending on what school of thought you have. Conscious mind is what we're aware of at any given moment. Conscious mind also determines language. Conscious mind also determines time. Time is a conscious concept. It's not an unconscious concept. Unconscious mind, by contrast, is what we're unaware of. That's the operating system of our overall life. Let me think Josh has got his computer out right now, right? Josh might be typing some stuff, and it might be, I don't know what you're typing, whatever. Just doing some email. Okay. So as Josh is answering his emails here in the middle of this training, what Josh is seeing is simply just what he's putting in the email. How much code has gone into the email app that he's using? How much code has gone into the operating system that allows that email app to sit on top of it? How much code, hardware, other things is going into the internet that's going to allow that email to be transmitted to whoever is going to receive it? So we can see that what the email he's typing is a very, very small percentage of the overall everything that makes the email work. Does that make sense? My conscious mind and unconscious mind are very much the same way. Conscious mind is the content of the email. The unconscious mind is everything that's going to allow that email to go from point A to point B. Make sense? That's a good metaphor. Did you know 95 to 97, depending on which study you look at, of all thinking is automatic and unconscious. 95 to 90%, say 97% of our thinking is done for you. Isn't that crazy? That scares the Jesus out of me. 90%, 97% of John is automatic. Man, I like to believe I'm not a control freak, I know, but I mean, I'd like to believe that I have more control than that. Better than 3%. Come on. Unconscious thinking is typically automatic, robotic, and fast. Right? How how many of you, when you see a yellow light, this will be fun. How many of you, when you see a yellow light, actually touch the brake? Right, none of you. How many of you see the yellow light actually hit the gas pedal? Okay. Now here's a question about your automatic response to the yellow light that's also really scary, which is, how many of you stop and say, wow, there's a yellow light? To really contemplate what my best strategy is here, and the pros and cons of stepping on the brake versus the pros and cons of actually hitting the gas pedal right now. Nobody. None of you do, including me. All right. And the point is that it's so fast it happens automatically. Does that make sense? All right. And the piece here that we're going to get into in just a moment is understanding what actually causes. I'm not going to give it away. I got some more knowledge base. Just understand that that's fast. That's an automatic response. If you want to take a look at other types of areas in your life where you have reactions, how many of you have at least one person in your life that triggers you in a negative way? Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. Tell the truth. I know Utah people don't like to confront truth sometimes. Come on. All right. Think about the person in your life that triggers an automatic reaction. It's almost a reaction that you feel that if you think about it, you don't actually have control of it. That, my friends, is an unconscious reaction. Now, many of you would also realize, would also have the intelligence to stop your reaction and choose a different response. That's called relationship management. We're not talking about that stuff. Okay, good for you. However, the fact that you have an automatic reaction that happens before you know what's happening is evidence of the speed of the unconscious mind. Make sense? Okay. All right. I'd like for just if you can like zoom your foveal vision in, your tunnel vision in, just take a look at this picture and look at it as if you were looking at it like 2 feet away from your face. Okay, ready? Good. Like see that dog right there. Okay. All right, good. Got it. What did you immediately notice about the dog? Teeth. What else? Looks aggressive, ferocious. I think somebody said. What else? German Shepherd, good, solid breed. What else? Reddish black, saw some color there. Okay, good. If you're really looking at that dog 2 feet away from your face, what's your immediate feeling? What's your emotional reaction? Fear. Yeah. I got something to worry about right now. You know, 100%. What would your reaction be? Okay. Safety. What would your reaction be? Safety is the reason for the reaction. What was that, Sean? Cover your face. Cover your face. You know, wrap up your arm. Get ready to take like one punch with the other one, right? By the way, that is the best practice when you see ferocious dog. Grab your arm and claw. Let it grab, so it won't let go. And then use your other ability. It's like you do with bears. Yeah, right. I'm not in Alaska that you carry a 50 caliber gun everywhere. That's 50. Yeah, Josh said he doesn't have to carry a gun. He can handle the bristles on his own. Yeah, actually, that doesn't surprise me. So the what you saw in the dog, your reaction to the dog, and most likely your emotional response, the immediate emotional response, those are all unconscious and reactive things. The purpose of those, by the way, let me ask you what you think. It's your unconscious mind. You're not going to slow down and say, okay, what's my threat assessment? You're wrapping your arm and you're thinking about how you're either going to beat this dog or get a treat, right? Some way of getting away from it. That is designed on the unconscious level to work that way. Why do you think that is? What is alive? Keep us alive. Good. Yes. Most of these reactions that we have are actually survival instinct. It's exactly what they are. What's that? Fight or flight, right? What else? Efficiency. If we take a moment and say, well, I don't know, maybe the dog is just, maybe my false assumptions about this dog's teeth at me, or I'm making it mean something that it's not actually there. My belief system around this dog, that dog is already eating you. That dog is already eating you. So the purpose of the unconscious mind moving this fast is typically to protect us as a survival instinct. Okay, that makes sense? All right. Problem though, and by the contrast, the conscious mind, still the gatekeeper, the passcode to the phone, the tugboat in the harbor. These are helpful metaphors to understand that the conscious mind can steer, but it's not actually the driver. Right? Any of us believe if you're driving later and you lost control of the steering wheel, started all of a sudden just started not working, that the car wouldn't have a mind of its own. Right? We'd like to believe that we're in control. The car is actually in control. Conscious mind is like the steering wheel when it works. Right? It tells the car where to go. Ultimately, though, the car is creating its own energy. Conscious mind tells the unconscious mind where to go, and it might have some influence there. Ultimately, the unconscious mind is the powerhouse. It generates the energy. That make sense? Okay. This is interesting. Research has shown that you take in about 11 million bits of information per second. Okay, there's some older numbers on these that were actually lower. In any given moment, you're taking in 10 million bits of energy or information to your eyes in a second. 1 second, 10 million bits. Okay. You want to, without moving your eyes, what color is the roof? Black. Got to see it, right? How many of you were thinking about that before I asked the question? Okay. Your skin is taking in 1 million bits. What does the bottom of your feet feel like right now? You didn't notice them until you brought awareness. Maybe a few of you did. Until you brought awareness to it. And we all agree that information is always there. Make sense? Hearing, 100,000, smell, 100,000. What can you hear in the ambient noise in the room that you were not paying attention to until I asked the question? Oh, I hear that fan here over here. Josh is vigorously sending emails right now. Good. Taste. This is an interesting one. How many of you are noticing something in your mouth right now? Right? That's weird. Okay. And so, in any given second, 11,201,000 bits of information coming into your process. The unconscious mind, oh, by the way, bit, smallest unit of information. Unconscious mind serves as a filtering mechanism to tell the conscious mind which bits are important. Because our Csikszentmihalyi, that's good, states in the book Flow, which I believe won a Nobel Prize, that human beings are capable of processing 7 bits of information every 18th of a second. And if you do the math on this, 7 every 18th equals 126 bits per second. Plus or minus 7 bits for differences in processing speed. So even the fastest people process 133 bits. Slowest people are at 119. It's not a huge delta. Okay. The point though is, remember what the difference was? How many bits there were coming in? Like over 11 million bits. And we're consciously capable of 126 plus or minus 7. I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only person here that blows my mind.
Yeah, that's the conscious.
It all comes into our senses. It's all coming in right now. Conscious can only grab 126 plus or minus 7. The other 11 million change are excluded. The unconscious mind says, we don't need you right now, you're not important. Okay? So here's an interesting fun fact. Within the first second of 2024, your unconscious mind will have processed the same amount of information as your conscious mind will have somewhere mid-June. So the moment that the Times Square ball falls, or whatever, what is there a Utah tradition around New Year's? I just learned about Pioneer Day for the first time this year. That's a thing. Go to bed, Sandy's Utah tradition. So within that first second, assuming that you're awake, you will have taken in as much information as the conscious mind will be able to understand by mid-June. Okay, that's mind-blowing to me. So, what is the difference in what is transmitted and what is actually processed? What does this mean? This means that we are inundated with tons of information that we don't actually consciously process every day. So, anybody ever heard this saying before, energy goes where attention flows? What does that mean? Anyway, energy goes where attention flows. Or energy flows where attention goes. What you focus on expands, is the Bowl law, so it's basically the same thing. What else? Thoughts of things. Thoughts certainly become things. Right? How many of you, when you focus on lead generation, you follow up set of appointments? Weird, huh? Right? That's the same idea. I'm going to put my focus on business development. I'm going to focus on creating leads or converting leads. They're going to become appointments because my energy, my attention is there. My energy is going to go into it. Right? Jake, when you start thinking about, I'm not going to say that, but when you start thinking about, sorry, Jake and I had a really good conversation last night, and I'm not going to out it right now. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. But Jake, you're a salesperson too, right? When you think about there's somebody who can benefit from using real advantage, right? And you begin putting attention to that. What ends up happening? It's coming to fruition. It's going to take some time. Okay. Good. So this is the question that we have control over. Remember, we're the tugboat, we're the steering wheel. Our conscious mind is. What filters the 11 million plus bits down to what is worthy of processing? Is actually, that's more of a rhetorical question. I should be asking myself every day, what is worthy of my attention? What is a distraction? Where is my focus need to be to cause the results that I want? Where does my focus need to not be to cause the results that I want? This is a big part of NLP, understanding the power of focus. When we want to change a habit, we typically focus on what we will do differently. What if we need to change a thinking habit or perception? Okay. How many people have in this room have successfully gotten over the limiting belief that people don't want to hear from you? Okay. Can I call you in? When you originally started, you held the old limiting belief around lead generation and follow up. What was the old belief? Okay, and then what did that belief change to?
Actually, one of because they
Okay, and when you change that belief, how did that change your results?
you end up having a lot more better conversations.
Okay, and what do those conversations lead to?
Typically, appointments that they're
And ultimately, appointments will lead to closings and money. Yes. Okay. And guys, what had to predicate all of that for Dave was a change in perception. The old perception is people don't want to hear from me. I'm going to be bugging them. I hate calling my SOI because they're going to take. I don't want them to feel like I'm taking from them. Versus perception is I'm going to have conversations, and if there's a need there that I can discover that I can help with, I'm going to lean in that, see what I can do to serve. Yes, ma'am.
Talk about getting over that over and over again. Talk about how you can learn or change to stick. Because I think everybody in this room has experienced a posted before a good day where they are on fire, the calls are going well, they don't have the days I have the gates be drawn on everything.
Yep.
So how do you make it stick?
Good question. Can I answer your question with a metaphor? I'd like for you to imagine that you have carried a wheelbarrow down the same path every day for 10 years. The wheelbarrow's full of rocks. Okay. What's happened to the path? It's got a groove. It's got probably a pretty deep one at this point in time, right? And when the groove is deep, how much harder is it for the wheelbarrow to take a different path? It's harder. It takes more energy, right? You really have to wait something out there, turn around backwards and pull it, get it on a different path. Let's say that you got it on a different path. The path of when there's a need, I'm going to serve it. And people that want to hear from me are going to be glad that I gave them a call. That's the new path for the wheelbarrow.
How long does it take you?
For what?
For you to develop the new belief.
Not too long.
And then how well did it stick after you develop it?
It's the point that I go prospective during the weekday.
Okay. So different people are going to have different reactions to that. Getting a little geeky on you for just a second. Okay? There are chemicals chemicals that actually connect neurons together at the neurobiological level. And the more, there's an old saying in neurobiology that says neurons that fire together, wire together. You guys ever heard that before? Right? Which means the brain actually fuses those neural connections together through specific chemicals in the brain. When you want to break the wheelbarrow out of the rut, you're telling the brain to ignore the neural connections that already exist. Yeah, the upside of that is the more that you remind yourself, here's how I'm choosing to think about it today, here's how I'm choosing to think about it right now, when I make calls, this is my chosen mindset, not the old stuff, is first thing it does is those chemicals now go to the new neural connections. And they also begin to dissolve the old ones. So how long does it take is a highly subjective question. If I were coaching you on that, the thing I would be asking you probably are two things. Number one, how much are you practicing the new mindset? And number two, what is your emotional response? Because if your brain wants to logically believe something, but your heart wants to ignore it, you're out of alignment and you have to do some further work to get there. The more quickly your logical side and your emotional side can agree with each other, the more quickly you're going to make that appropriate change. Okay? It's a very short answer to a very sophisticated question. Good question. All right, makes sense, everybody? The thing I really want to part with you is that all of us are possible. All of us, the possibility for change, for transformation, for seeing a situation in a completely different way, having a completely different perception that leads to a different result. That change lives within all of us. Okay, and sometimes it takes hard work to get there. Changing our mind is ultimately the hardest thing we're going to do. That's the hardest part, is the internal work. Okay, so hang out there and keep fighting a good fight every day. All right. Here's one. This is a really good one. I use this one all the time. I use this one like 20 times a day. I kid you not. I have to work at my own job. I actually called my really good friend Jeannie Ossis, who I teach coaching skills paper with Jeannie, and both of them she'll coach me and I'll coach her. Jeannie, I got something I got to work for you right now. I just called her earlier this morning. I need to get my head straight before I get to go teach this thing. And I feel like this is just happening to me. This bad thing happened. I'm just being really vulnerable with you guys. I was totally pumped. Right? I was like, oh, this is happening. And she just reframes me. She goes, okay. Hey, John, how's this happening for you? Instant perception shift. Instant perception shift. Oh, well, you know what's teaching me this, and I'm grateful for this experience, and I'm certainly grateful for this relationship that's produced, and I'm going to be able to carry this lesson forward into all the other things in my life that I want. That, my friends, is a change in perception. I use this question 20 times a day myself. I also use the question all the time. Okay, in this moment, what's the opportunity? Those are two that I use every day when my old proverbial poo hits the fan, and it does. That I use to change perception, because when you change your perception, you change your relationship with the situation. Therefore, you can get a new result. In this moment, what's my opportunity, or what is the opportunity? Here we go. Can't tell you how many great teams that I coach were so looking forward to a shift. They wanted the market to shrink because they wanted all the suckers out. They wanted the people now that weren't going to demonstrate skill set, habits, work ethic, character to be able to thrive in a market like we have today, over 35 to 40% down on transactions. I have to say that most teams I coach, they're at least even with where they were, if not up year over year. Right? They're at least even. There's one that's a little bit down. And there's reason why. So it's just an example of a daily perception shift that you can use. All right, makes sense? All right. Fixing our attention on how we choose to think trains the unconscious mind. Imagine, I already told you this morning, my train came off the tracks. Right? And yet when Jeannie asked me, how's this happening for you, the version of that question, and it set me back to where my attention was. That's the thing that we got to remember. There's 11 million bits coming in, 11 million plus bits coming in any second. My unconscious mind goes to the stinking thing. steering wheel of my conscious mind and put it right back to constructive thinking. That's a choice of where I choose to put my attention. Make sense? You also have that choice. How many of us have gone through some mistaken thinking in the last month, the last 6 months? I know. Okay, thank you for being human. And as a human, many of us don't realize that we actually have a choice at any given time to choose which 126 bits we're going to choose. Okay. I want to leave you with that power. It's not always easy, but you have the power. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a question as it relates to clients who have the stinking thinking or other people with that might have stinking thinking. They don't know these things. Is there a way to help steer them toward that positive or that?
I'm going to ask you, how's it happening for you? How's this market happening for you? What is this market teaching you about how to be great in real estate? When you learn the lessons this market is teaching you, how will that forever change your business? How much market share do you stand to gain by soldiering through this? Like you're out right now, right? You're out. What have you learned that you need to share with the room about your mindset in this market? I'll let you come back to it if you want to think about it. It's a deep question.
I mean, there's a lot of things. It's not just like one single thing.
Just summarize them, get us down to 2 or 3 bullet points. I'll come back to it. Okay. But I still want you to pay attention to the rest. Okay. So when we purposely or consciously train our unconscious, eventually it becomes our habitual way of thinking or our way of being. Remember, the NLP superpower is the speed of change. The speed of change. Time is always the enemy. The acceleration of change equals better use of time. Make sense? You guys picking up what I'm putting down right now? A lot of you seem like you've gone internal, which is actually a good sign, right? How many of you are in some type of reflective state right now? Love that. It's usually the sign of a learning-based group. Okay? Good. So, bottom line, summary. There's way more, by the way, coming in than we can handle. That's actually a really nice accident. Make a daily practice of choosing your focus. Well-chosen days become well-chosen weeks. Well-chosen weeks become well-chosen months. Well-chosen months become years. And well-chosen years become a trajectory for a life. Right? What's the journey of 1,000 miles begins with? One step. One step might be how I choose to think for the next 5 minutes. Makes sense? All right. Every day, and I encourage you to get up and choose. Okay. We'll speed through this part. What do you got to add to this, Coach?
Well, I mean, I love training like this, and so that's a lot of deep stuff for us. What for real, man. And I've studied this as well. I wonder, for the rest of us, what's one thing that you did when you became aware of the power of consciousness and the power of unconsciousness? What's the one thing that you did daily to start gaining control? Your daily practice was one thing.
I told you my 2 questions.
Okay. So those
The two questions, those 2 questions became a lot. I got a lot of traction over those 2 questions about shifting effect thinking or classic victim thinking into empowered thinking. Right? When I say, well, how is this happening for me? So, well, you really need to deepen your skill set here. Now, I didn't always like the answer, but I was always empowered. Now, we're not going to go into empowered versus disempowered. However, empowered, don't make the confusion, my friends, that empowered means pleasant.
What is happening for me versus what is happening to me?
How is this happening for you?
Right. Yeah. How is this happening for me versus how is this happening to me? How did you gain control of differentiation?
Oh, good question. So when do I know when to trigger that question? What emotions do you have? What emotions? The emotions are the messenger of the unconscious mind for all of us, right? Fear, anxiety, nervousness, disempowerment, guilt, shame, just kind of all the crack casserole that we hate, right? We like eat. I mean, we want to eat good casserole, not crap casserole. We want good emotions every day. We want to feel good about lives. We want to feel good about business. We want to feel good about relationships. And usually, at least for me, and I think for most people, if we really treat negative emotions as a messenger about what is this emotion telling me? Something's off in this relationship. I can feel it. Okay, how's this happening for me? It's telling me where I need to think more strategically or be more skilled. Then I don't always get it right. However, it leads me to a different learning or something I need to do differently. And then remember the cybernetic loop that I talked about? I will do something differently. I will change. And how well did that work? If it worked, great. If it didn't, back up, something different. Okay? So it's a good question. Maybe the emotions can be triggers for you. If there's something that you're worrying about right now, something that's got you stressed or anxious, consider what it is. I'll just put you through a little mini coaching exercise. What's got you worried, anxious, whatever stress? What would you want instead? How do you change to get that? Most of you know the answer to that question. Brutally honest with yourself, you already know the answer. It's got you worried. What would you want instead? And what would need to change for you? How would you need to change? Remember what I said, empower doesn't necessarily mean pleasant, right? Knowing how we need to change doesn't necessarily mean we want to do it, but on some level we know it's the right way. Oh, yeah. All right. And then it shows up in your bank account. You're like, oh, I'm so surprised. It's amazing. These changes have led, by the way, conversations that convert. You better believe that this mindset shows up in your bank. You guys are all business people here, collected here in a business context. This absolutely shows up in your bank. All right. Real quickly, I'm going to speed through this. I want to give you a conversational model. Let's just change gears massively. It's a really, really cool model. When Audrey and Dave and Josh and I were talking about like what to do and what to bring in, many of you are already really, really good at objection handling. I'm just going to invite you, those of you that are pretty advanced in your objection handling, maybe just take a fresh look at this. Those of you may just be learning objection handling for the first time. I would encourage you to like really deeply internalize this model for a conversation and practice it until you can do it yourself. Okay, practice it until you can do it yourself. Really quickly, helpful perspectives in objection handling. Number one, this is a mindset shift for many of us. Your objections as questions. Disguised questions instead of complaints. Right? How many of you have ever faced? You have all the slides, guys. You have all. Audrey already has. Except Audrey, I am going to fix the slides. Right? Yeah, whatever. Let's go ahead and do it. Actually, we're only on 2 slides left. So your objections as questions in disguise as opposed to complaints. Right? Most times when people say, well, you know what, I really want to work with an agent that's going to be 4%. Our first reaction is to maybe become argumentative, or maybe to argue or to lean into, well, if that's what you want to get, I'll do 4%, which is a mistake. Okay? If you can hear, I want to, the other agent said they'll do it for 4%, if you do it for 4%, you can really train yourself to hear that as a question, which is, what is the value that I'm going to get out of you at 6%? If you can learn to hear that question, you will make more money and you will actually service your clients at a higher level. Okay? Be able to distinguish between objections and conditions. They're really easy. There's a couple of really good definitions on this. However, objections are something you can do something about. Conditions are something you can't. Right? I've been unemployed for 3 months and I'm not getting my new job until next week. My credit score is 60. Okay? Okay, we're probably not going to be ready. That's a condition. It's not going to make you, worthy of taking out a $600,000. Good objection handling. This is important. Good objection handling leaves the relationship better than when or trust. Even in Keller Williams, so many of our good objection handlers find really, really clever ways to make people roll. They get snarky with, oh, I appreciate you think that, but did you see it this way? There's an objection handle that intends to shame somebody. I'm the agent, I'm the expert, you're a dumbass because you sell a house every 10 years. That's not the right attitude. The attitude is actually intended to be one where, hey, listen, I can appreciate where you are, I truly accept where you are, let me educate you, let me show you perspective, let me give you something that you may not understand about the market and help you make a better decision. Can you feel the difference in the attitude there? Huge. And then number 4, meet them where they are and provide positive leadership towards their goals. How many of you realize as an agent, somebody's actually hiring you for your leadership? You are leading them through something they don't know how to do. You're also negotiating an agency. You're also doing some of the legal compliance aspects of the job too. And at the same time, though, what they really need from you is your leadership to the process of buying or selling the home. Make sense? Okay, so consider that. Okay, 5 steps to this model. Number 1, isolate it. This is the step where most agents, ISAs, team leaders do not go deep enough in the isolation of the objection. We'll cover that in just a second. Number 2, acknowledge and validate. Number 3, conditional close. Number 4, handle, provide perspective. Reframing may be part of step 4. And then finally, 5 is only closing for the next step. We'll go through these a little bit more microscopic. Okay? Isolating the objection. Somebody says, the other agent said I could do, Liz, will you play with me for a second?
Yeah.
Give me, you're the seller, the other agent said they would do it for 4%.
The other agent said.
Okay, so help me understand, Liz, what's really important about 4% for you?
I want to make more money.
You want to make more money, absolutely. And what matters the most about that for you?
Because I need it because I'm retired.
Okay, you need the money because you're retired. We've gotten down to what she really wants. It's not about 4%. What does she say that she wants? The most money possible. Step 2, this is where you make an emotional connection. This is important. Liz, 100% understandable why you would think that way. Everyone that sells their house obviously wants the most money. It sounds like there's compelling reasons to want that money. Yes, is that fair? I'll read you it. Going fast. Okay. Step 3. This is important. This question, learning how to ask this question, will cause you all to have better outcomes, results, and outcomes. Liz, if I could show you how working with me, even at 6%, was going to net you more, how open would you be to having that conversation?
That's me.
Okay, so what the first 3 steps of this objection handling model do, they isolate finding out what the person really wants, meet them where they are to build a relationship and the emotional connection, and then we ask if I can meet the criteria that are important to you, will you say yes to me? When Liz says, yes, if you can show me how, then she's going to say yes. At the end, now what we've done is set up the yes. Does that make sense? Let's go back to the previous slide. You can't get that person to giving you a conditional yes unless you train yourself to hear the objection to the question. Okay. All right. Number 4, handle the objection. This might be providing perspective. Liz will show her my list sale prices relative to the market. Or I'm going to be able to show maybe some testimonials from my past sellers, depending on what's important to her. Or I'm going to say, here's the average days on market. Here's where I am. Here's the number of properties that have gone into multiple situations and how much we've been able to produce over the list price because of this. Whatever it is, evidence here, right? I'm going to present the evidence. Now I'm going to ask, finally, closing for the next step. Based on our conversation, Liz, what do you feel is our next step? Okay. You know what? Thank you for sharing your concern about making the most money today. What are you thinking now? Is there anything that's missing from this conversation that would cause you to make a great decision right now? Just another way to close. Okay, so these 5 steps: isolation, acknowledgement and validation, conditional close, perspective, and then closing for the next step. Okay, what do you think about this? I went through this very, very quickly.
I mean, even if we went through it slowly, even if we did like the class exercises things like that. How long did it take you to be able to unconsciously, if you will, be aware of using this 5-step process? I mean, how many hours do you feel like you put in before it was unconscious?
A lot.
Right. And so, I mean, you look at all of these, eager, hungry, successful real estate agents, and it's one thing to come in here and listen to an incredible, speaker guru. It's another thing to take one component of this or two components of this and now go and put it in action. Literally, practice, 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 practice. And that's up to you guys. Like you guys now, who you sit next to. I don't care how long you've been in business week. Who you sitting next to. That you're going to buddy up with, and actually just say, look, once a day, I want to just practice this little 5-step objection thing. Or I'm going to put a little reminder in my calendar in the morning time to be more aware and ask myself these 2 questions. And so I'm just aware of it. Or I'll say, every time I get to a stop sign or see the color red, I'm going to think about those 2 questions.
Yeah, that's a nice little anchor installation that you just did, by the way, right? Every time I see a stop sign, I'm going to think about how do I know I'm isolating objection. However, let me just say one thing about this. Also, the point for those of us that are newer to the idea of this, the point here is not to overwhelm it. Actually, the point is to simplify. I have a wonderful Becky Hansen in the back. We were talking a few weeks ago, and if you have 5-step objection handling and a good value ask, which is another model I teach for lead generation, lead follow-up, give value, ask for the business, ask for the referral. It's very simple. If you have those two conversations, pretty fluent, you'll cover like 98% of everything. You don't need 8 million things. You don't even need 1,000 things. You don't even need a dozen things. You really just need 2 to cover the vast majority of the results that you'll get. That makes sense? And we can do the value ask on another day. However, the point here is just to think about the model. Why do we call this a model and not a script? This is true. That is true. And why do we call this a model and not a script?
And the conversation can go anywhere.
Right, Nate. So say more about that.
Well, a script would be more of this is what you say when they say.
Yep.
But you can't have a script for every single objection or condition from
100%. By the way, I love the way that you said that, Nate. What do you notice about AB? What do you notice about A? What do you notice about like most of the are these questions or are they statements? They're questions. And in a model, if I'm going to give you a script, I'm already going to know what I have to say, right? In a model, though, since we're asking questions, and we're being directed to the next question by what the client says. Right? And those of you that are familiar with ninja selling, which I think is like violent selling, okay? Those of you that are familiar with ninja selling, in chapter 15, all of it is about listening to what they say and asking questions to discover where their pain and pressure is. What's got you really concerned about 4%? I want to make the most money possible. Why is that important for you? Because I'm going to retire and I need the money. Okay? We know that if she doesn't make the money, probably going to be a painful experience for her, or maybe she's looking to retire with the most money because she wants to go on 14 holes. Okay, make sense? All right. So this is the important part about this is that these questions, to your point, Nate, questions drive the conversation way more than statements ever will. And for those of you, for Dave and for Stephanie, I saw Stephanie in the back just a minute ago. For Josh, you guys all know this. Sales, coaching, and effective leadership are like 98% the same. Sales, coaching, and effective leadership are like 98% the same. If you can drive an effective leader, you can drive an effective leadership through questions, you will get to a result through another human being faster than you will by making a mistake. It's kind of tricky. Okay. All right. So we'll make sure that you have this. I want to be cognizant of everybody and respectful of everybody's time. I'm just kind of curious, what do you get out of this conversation? I don't want to lightning fast. All of these things can merit their own couple of days to talk about it. I'm curious what you get out of this. What do you? Oh, it likes that. It likes that response.
I was going to say, right after you asked that, this is some of the saying that you become in this market, I've become aware of where my wins are, and although it's not a culture, I can improve on it.
What was the greatest weak point you had?
I would say that the
And how did you improve on it?
skills and also learning to ask better questions.
Perfect. Perfect example. How's this market happening for you? And learn how to close better. It's a skill base. Oh, man, I'm so glad you said that. Such a tangible, tactical thing for us to talk about. All right, yes, ma'am.
I love the objection as a question, not such.
Yep. Good. Thank you, Lisa. Guys, this is an expensive meeting, not have more awesome.
Can you tell me the value aspect again?
What's that?
No, it's the same. You said the value aspect.
Value ask high level is deliver value. And not what we perceive as value, yet what the person receiving the call perceives as value. Okay, first ask is, my personal favorite is, this is all on the phone, what questions do you have about the market or maybe the value of your home? You can discover a lead that way without saying, what are your real estate needs right now? You can ask that too. That's like a little more subtle ask. Okay. And then the second ask is asking for referral. Who might you know that would benefit from having this conversation? Or who might you know that would like to convert? Who might you know that might be thinking about selling or buying? Convert, find appreciation. Depending on what your value is. Those little terms.
How you think determines basically what's in our balance sheet, how you all these things. So, and the speed at which you change, accelerate.
Sean, can I let you on the spot and just ask you what was coming up for you? Right in that.
Just I think I've been doing actually a pretty good job last several weeks shifting my mindset positively. But it just again, simplistic things just reinforces what I think.
That's a real conversation. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I'm sorry. Tell me I know you. No, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted you to say the statement again about emotions are the deliverer. Is it a purchase thought? What is
Emotions, the thing about negative emotions particularly is, or all emotions really, negative emotions are a messenger. They tell you that something is wrong. Usually the threat is their survival instinct, right? And yet the conscious person receives the emotion and interprets the emotion. What's the message here? Why am I angry? What's the message in this anger? What's the message in this frustration? I have a boundary that's being violated. Okay, what would I want instead? Maintain my boundary. Okay, what do I need to do about that? Probably go have an impactful conversation. Yes.
All right. So I really did ask myself, how's this happening for me and my friends? What is it teaching me? I personally my opportunities. That's a big piece.
You're the only agent that's ever said this. Where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 where your discipline is good? And then what would move it up 1 notch, not to 10, 1 notch? That sounds like 10. Okay. That sounds like 10, and life happens, right? So what would cause just to go from that 5 to 6? Here's the danger. What's the danger? I can actually ask this question. What's the danger of taking this shit? And then when you fail, what do the wiring of those neural networks? That's exactly right. Saying that listen,
one jump.
stop sign. That's a nice install. It's already there. Okay. Saying I'm going to follow my schedule perfectly. Is that a conscious or unconscious concept? Is that the 5% or the 95%? That's the 5%. Okay, remember, if the steering wheel comes off, is that car going to continue to drive itself? 100%. So when we attempt to make changes, don't make the change so drastic that you're setting yourself up for a failure that's going to back and reaffirm your negative identity. Small changes, friends. 1% changes, 2% changes every day. You stack up enough 1% changes. What's a 1% change for 100 days? 100% change. So I encourage you to make small enough changes that you actually succeed. Maybe just 5 minutes. I'm going to do 5 minutes of perfect time off. Tomorrow I'm going to do 6 minutes. Feels pretty reasonable, yes? Can you see yourself succeeding with 5-minute time off? How would you feel differently about yourself when you're succeeding versus when you're setting yourself up for a perfect schedule that you fail at over and over again? That's the key to doing this. And what else? Yes, sir.
Step 2 by step is probably one of those parts of my meeting because the sequence don't want to acknowledge that that compliance and 100%. They want to take another way. Start acknowledging, yes, you're right, the sky is purple today. And then step 3.
Yeah, that's that the sky is purple in their mind, right? We may see something very different. We don't have to say the sky is purple. We have to accept them believing that the sky is purple. David, it's totally understandable for you that why you think the sky is purple. If I could show you some information that might show you how the sky is a different color, how open would you be to receiving it? Acknowledgement, validate, conditional close.
I think one of the things too for us just in the real estate world is the ability to distinguish between an objection and condition.
Yeah, lay it out for us.
Well, I mean, Dave teaches what the difference is. You know, I mean, every morning, 5 days a week on our conversations at a book call, he's constantly talking about the difference between an objection and a condition. What do you say? What's the difference?
By conditioning, you get a
And I don't even know if I'll be able to explain this properly or if anybody else has the same feeling, but like, I'm obviously a salesperson, but I hate to be sold to. And so when you're going through these objection handlings and you're asking the questions that lead them in the direction that are like no-brainers, but it's still you get that resistance because it's like, but I don't want to be sold to. Do you know what I mean? Like you're leading me in this direction, and I know that that's what I should be saying. It makes sense, but
I want to make sure that I understand you clearly on this. Are we talking about when an objection comes up, or like an initial lead generation we follow?
like when an objection comes up and you're the salesperson saying, well, if I could show you how to do this, obviously it makes sense. It's like, yes, I should be saying yes to this, but like I feel like some people, including myself sometimes, I'm like, I can see where this is going. You know what I mean? Like you're leading me to this and there's still like a resistance to it. Does anybody understand what I'm saying?
Someone who knows the game. Someone who knows the game.
It's
Yeah.
you know, here's the thing is a lot of that's the stuff that's living between your ears, right? So I mean, to just put it this way, I'm a partner in a brewery, and my brewery partner is kind of operating this, but the primary owner of the brewery is an engineer, all right? And when we opened up the brewery, he said, well, you know, you're the salesperson here, so you're gonna have to be the one that sells. And I said, oh, so can I just guess, like, I mean, what's real estate client, by the way? I'm like, what is selling? Because selling, if somebody already wants to buy a house, you're not selling anything.
Right.
All right. And what you're doing is helping people get clear about the process and providing value, which has nothing to do with sales at all. And so the problem that we have sometimes, this is just me going here and take this.
What you're putting down.
It's the definition we have between our ears of what sales is. You know why I'm so successful in sales? Because I was really good at creating and maintaining relationships and providing value, ask. Value, ask. Rinse and repeat. If you don't want to buy a home, there's nothing in the world that I'm going to be able to say to change your mind. You just don't. Right? But I'd love to get your take on that because it's valid. But I'm so glad that you tried to formulate that question because there are a lot of people that are sitting here that didn't have the courage to ask that.
Well, Okay, and let me, maybe can I provide a perspective shift?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit forcibly. The purpose of this model is discovering a need and discovering if we can meet that need within your report. Remember, Gary says it's on page 88, shift, I believe, that the purpose of a close is to cause a decision in the conversation. The purpose of a close is to cause a decision. It's not to try to get something. The purpose of a close is to cause whoever on the other side of that to make a decision. So if we go back to, like, Liz is already selling a house, right? And she's already had somebody with 4% that's already come in and discounted the rate. Tell me something about that. That's a fun objection. You know, if an agent is not willing to negotiate their rate, what's going to happen when they can negotiate in their house? Yeah, it's good. However, this has already said there's a need. I'm putting her through this model here so I can hear and relate to what her need actually is. Now, if you're saying that you hear these models being used because you've seen behind the curtain a little bit, I would invite you to, and maybe that gives you a little bit of resistance to that. I would invite you to consider that even when somebody's selling you, if they're doing it well, they're doing the same thing. They're discovering your need. And if they can't meet the conditions for your need, you're going to say no. And if they can't, you're going to say yes. So that's the mindset perspective. Think about this as a discovery conversation, more so than you're attempting to get somebody to do something. Right? Does that make sense? Like Josh said, I don't know any realtor that's ever picked up the phone in a lead generation conversation and called somebody to sell a house. If any of you have done that, I want to know how you did that.
It seems like it's something. People who are so skilled in this conversation get rid of that. And I think what she's saying is when you look at this, feeling yourself drawn into it, and
Yeah, they're leading you in their direction, and you're like,
but like Josh said, you don't want to go out and so then find a different value and become a right, like don't take it hard.
So think about this conversation these models as discovering how you're going to help somebody versus what you're going to get from them. Right? All right. I know we're over time. I want to thank Interlem today for sponsoring much. Brandon, you want to maybe say a word to us before you kick us off with our sales time?
Yeah, for sure. So we're Interlem, with the in-house KW finance guys. I have an office here. She has one in Cotton Heights. I saw Tony walking up that. There's in South Valley. And we've actually had the fortunate time with John JD training on this the past year. I learned a lot from it. So if you guys, when you have a client that has objection, we're training up to come in and find out what that objection is. You're going to have to fix it, get them to move forward if they are willing to buy a house. So it's just finding out what that objection is. We've got great training. He's been awesome. Great coach right there. I'll call him up that case.
Really, these guys have really changed their mindset. I'm so proud of them. Not a parental way. I'm so proud of them for putting themselves at the center of helping agents solve their conversion problems when it comes to finance. Right now, a couple of big teams I coach, I ask their ISA teams, and what of the objections that you're hearing right now, what percentage of them are financial in nature? And it's like 70 to 90% financial objections. Interest rates, people are renting, and I'm going to continue to rent at $4,000 a month because it's a 7.25% 30-year fixed. Okay, hold on a second. Let's pause for a second. If I can show you how you're losing money by continuing to rent, how would you do that conversation? Additional close. Same thing. This is what these guys have learned how to do. And now, all of a sudden, they free it up through the numbers and the products that are on the lending side to help an agent convert a lead. And this is the best part, put that buyer into a better situation than they knew they actually that they didn't know. Once again, solving problems for people that they didn't really have, right? So that's the cool stuff on that. So thank you, Brent and Mike and Cody for sponsoring lunch. Audrey, would you like to say anything as we wrap up? Thank you so much for hosting this. This is awesome. Our focus.
Thank you for coming.
You guys, seriously, what an honor it is to have a room filled for John coming in. I mean, I give you all, a pat on the back for taking some time out of your day to being willing to learn from what I know is one of the best for sure. But I definitely will challenge you to be different, to go back and implement something now and get practice at doing it. It's the aggregation of marginal gains, not big things, but just the aggregation of marginal gains plus enough time that causes success to happen. So there are a couple of great, takeaways from here. I challenge you, to do something about it, to take some action on it. If you guys are looking for partners or role play partners, wanting to hit me up or Dave up on Utah Roost for doing this 5 days a week, we want to make sure that we're your partners in accountability to being different and being better. If you have questions for us about Utah Roost, let us know. But I mean, all the way from Austin, freaking Texas, John Vander Gheynst.
Yes, please, it is inside of each of you to get everything you want in your life. Whatever it is, it's inside of each of you. Just have to figure out how to navigate the maze sometimes. You have some really great resources in this room. You can always call me. I'm there for you. Okay. And a lot of people that really care deeply about helping people realize human potential. Okay, and all of you carry that. I would just empower and encourage all of you to go back every day. Okay. Thank you so much.